Okay, in this video, I'm going to show how to add a couple of entries to the database, as you might if you were working through page 8 of the GM financial statement. We're going to start off with V because it's a little bit simpler than some of these that appear over here on the left. We're going to go ahead and start out with, let's see, cell M5 here on page 8 of the GM financial statement. We're going to look at how to add an OEM account and then how to add a report identifier. And I'm going to walk through this as if I were doing it myself using the Confluence page kind of as a guide, just so that whenever anybody does this themselves, they'll kind of like have the ability to kind of look at the resources that you might look at if you were getting a little bit lost or confused. So to start off, usually whenever we do these financial statements, we'll try to get the chart of accounts loaded ahead of time, but sometimes, there are misses in the account numbers. In this case, there's a few accounts that weren't added, and a lot of those missed accounts actually end up like corresponding to like this page. They're used on this page a lot. So what we're going to do is look at how to add an OEM account, just in case you come across these. If you do need to add an OEM account, you should probably let somebody in product know, and definitely for this case, that's what we're going to do. If you have to add an account, let somebody from product know, so that way whenever they have tickets where later on other people are having to add accounts, we know kind of to exclude those. But to start off with, I want to like approach this as if we didn't know that we were going to have to add an account to show exactly how we would realize that that is the case. So to add a report identifier, you will look at the GM financial statement with report identifiers sheet. We can see that in column M, row 5, we have this closed-in lease current month report identifier. We can copy this report identifier and then navigate to the TB out page. This is where those report identifiers are pulled from. I can push Control F on this page, make sure look in a set of values so that it will search the right thing. We can paste our report identifier in and then click find. And here we see on row 3093 our report identifier. We can see that this corresponds to account 511. It has a name, recurring lease payments closed in, which sounds like it's what we're looking for. So if we try to look up this account number 511 in our OEM account tables, we'll find that it isn't there. So just quickly, I'm going to look at all of the accounts that are in the system for GM. We can see that there are a bunch of accounts in the system, but whenever we add the 511 to our account number, or we add that in our predicate, we can see that, well, if I run the statement correctly, we can see that it actually does not exist in the system. So we're going to need to add account 511 before we can add the report identifier. So hopefully that makes sense. If you need to know how you would, now I can tell you that this OEM account table is pretty straightforward. There is only one catch, which is that it has a self-referencing foreign key. So if we look at the existing entries here real quick, we can see that there's a GUID that's generated sort of by default, the account number, the name. We can get those from the sheet we just looked at. So if we look back really quick, 511 is the account number, and recurring lease payments dash closed in is the name. So we can get that information pretty easily. OEM make ID is 15 and will always be 15 for the General Motors project. And then there is an AutoSoft account type ID. This corresponds to whether the account that we're looking at is a revenue account or an expense account, liability, and so on. If you're not sure what this value should be, you'll either have to look it up somehow in the supporting documentation or to talk to somebody from product. We'll look more at that in just a second. And then a cost to sell account ID if the account that you're adding has a cost to sell. So some accounts are what we call sell accounts, and then they'll have a related cost to sell account ID. So to insert, and the cost to sell account ID, by the way, references the the same table. So any goods in the cost to sell account ID will reference the OEM account table itself. So like for instance, these IDs reference accounts that are in this table, right? These IDs correspond to the ID column here. Okay, so we want to add an account. It's not too hard to write and insert into a single table like this, but in the Confluence page, just if you're like unsure exactly how to go about it or you feel more confident, if you had some examples, there is a section where we talk about the chart of accounts and how to add accounts. There is a reference to this pull request, which has several, I think a few thousand examples of what these inserts look like. So definitely would recommend, if you're confused about how to write SQL statements, checking out this, checking out these inserts. There's plenty of examples here. If that's too much, there's also an example copy and pasted out of that pull request right here of the insert statement. So we can just copy that insert statement, and then we can head back to our SQL editor, if I could copy it correctly. Let's see. I did click the button and it did say copy, so I'm going to copy the SQL statement. And then I can come here and paste it. And then I can sub out different values as it makes sense too. So if you remember, we were looking at page 8. Column M, row 5, which is this cell right here, and we had determined that it would be account 511 that we wanted to use. So for our insert statement, we'll modify the values. Instead of the account being 450A like in the example, it'll be 511. And instead of it being, let me see, and you kind of have to go back and forth, instead of it whatever it is right there, we want it to say it's recurring lease payments dash closed end. So we will stick that in there. And I'm kind of scrolling off of the screen here. That will be the account name, and so just like to clarify a little bit, we're going along the rows here. So ID will be new ID, account number 511, name is going to be recurring lease payments dash closed end. OEM make ID is 15. AutoSoft account type ID you would need to ask or look up, and then the cost to sell ID you would either also have to ask or look up or kind of determine yourself. As you do these financial statements, you kind of start to see patterns. Like most sell accounts will be in the 400 account number for the GM financial statement, and most cost to sell accounts will be in the 600. In this case, we have a 500 account, so it probably does not have a cost of sell account associated with it. There is another spreadsheet that product has made for us, which lists the OEM accounts as well as their cost of sell account if they have one. So we can also look through